The moment the cabin door slammed open, silence fell like a blade. Armed men stormed the aisle, their voices sharp, their eyes burning with cold intent. Passengers froze, hearts pounding, as the flight that had been bound for freedom became a prison in the sky. Panic rippled through the rows, until the pilot's eyes caught a single woman who didn't flinch. In that sea of fear, she was still. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love knowing who's listening. She sat near the center, her hands folded gently on her lap, her breathing steady when all others gasped. Around her, children whimpered, a man clutched his chest, and prayers whispered into trembling palms. Yet her gaze was clear, steady as water. The captain, standing under the watch of a gun, wondered, why isn't she afraid? The lead terrorist barked orders, demanding silence, threatening lives with every motion of his weapon. The plane seemed to shrink under the weight of dread. Still, the woman's calm presence spread like a quiet fire. Those seated near her straightened, clinging to her composure as if it were a shield. The pilot's thoughts raced. He knew the rules, knew the cost of defiance. He had a family waiting, a daughter who still drew him crayon pictures of airplanes. Yet something about that woman's unwavering stillness whispered that surrender was not the only choice. Hours dragged on. Negotiations through the radio were tense, every word a gamble. Sweat beaded on brows, the air stifling with fear. But whenever the terrorists turned away, the pilot saw her whispering softly to those nearby. She reminded them to breathe, to stay quiet, to believe. In the midst of terror, she became the pulse of hope. Then came the moment of breaking. One of the hijackers, jittery with rage, threatened a young boy who had started to cry. The pilot felt his blood run cold. Mother sobbed. Father shouted. The boy's scream cut through the cabin. And yet, the woman rose, slowly, deliberately, her eyes never leaving the terrorists. She spoke with a voice that did not tremble. Gentle, but firm, carrying through the cabin. She asked for mercy. She reminded him of his own mother, his own childhood, his own humanity. For a heartbeat, his weapon lowered. In that pause, that single fragile pause, the crew saw their chance. The pilot gave a subtle signal. Doors burst from the outside. Soldiers, silent and swift, surged in like a tide of resolve. Movements sharp, precise, overwhelming. The terrorists, rattled by hesitation, were disarmed in a storm of coordinated force. Passengers ducked, shields of arms and prayers around loved ones. The cabin shook not from turbulence, but from the clash of courage against cruelty. When it was over, when the shackles of fear finally broke, the cabin erupted, not in screams, but in applause. Hands clapped through tears, strangers embraced. Voices cracked with relief. And through it all, the woman simply sat down again, her composure unbroken, her presence still a beacon. The pilot approached her afterward, his hands trembling now that the danger had passed. He asked her how she had stayed so calm when death loomed so close. She smiled, a small, tired smile, and said, "Fear spreads fast. But so does courage." Someone had to choose which one would win. Because courage doesn't vanish, it waits. And it finds its way back. And sometimes, the calmest voice in the darkest moment is the one that saves us all. If this story moved you, take a moment to share your thoughts in the comments. And if you believe the world needs more reminders of courage and humanity, make sure to subscribe, because more stories like this are waiting to be told.